Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
2023, you guys, and I'm winging it. Hi, it's Jackie Cation. Welcome to the Dork Forest. That's the website, the Dork Forest, if you like a determiner. Dorkforest.com also works. JackieCation.com has all of my stand-up information. Like, it has videos, it has pictures, it has links to this podcast and to my other podcast with Lori Kilmartin. It has a merch store that has Dork Forest t-shirts. It has all of my stand-up merch and all of my CDs and DVDs. So that's what you know about websites. There's an opportunity because we're in the new year here that you can donate to the Dork Forest. I don't have a Patreon. I don't have anything really set up, though I understand you can set up on PayPal a monthly if you wanted to. You could donate and be of to support the show. This is the 17th season, the 17th year I've been putting this stuff out. It's free, but if you have money and would like to throw me some money, boy, howdy. There's a PayPal. There is at my email address, actually, Jackie@JackieCation.com, which you can also email me and tell me how much you're enjoying the show. You can also do Venmo if you'd like, which is just Jackie Cation. No hyphen, all one word. Picture of this person, me, and then I think that's it. I think I have Zelle, but it's too complicated. Other than that, let's do the credits. Patrick Brady still in, fixing the audio all these years later. Give it up to Patrick Brady. That's what a lot of your donations support, by the way, because I like to share the wealth. And then Bill Mose, he does the websites, and Mike Ruekberg wrote and sang that song, composed and sang that song with his wife now, Sarah. And at the end, he sings the Mexican hat dance, which is always fun. Anyway, I'm sure there's more to it. There's a band camp that has a bunch. It has like a stand-up storytelling album that was never released. It's there's also a bunch of live episodes that many of them are free. There were 200 episodes that were not pre-recorded, and I sort of culled through those, and I pulled like 17 of the best ones. There's an album collection of that, 17 hours of Dork Forest. If you run through all of the episodes, go to bandcamp.com, Dork Forest, or Google those words, and you'll find it. Anyway, there's probably more. I can't remember any of it, but you're doing great. Feel free to enjoy the show.
Oh my God, Jackie Cation, how's it going? I'm in my garage. It's exciting. I believe we met 2 days ago over the internet. Amma Marfo. Welcome to the Dork Forest. Is that when we met? Yes, it was at the Lysistrata panel for an Austin, Texas comedy festival, right?
Yes, it was.
You, though, are a Massachusetts comic.
I am. I'm based in Boston.
There you go. Boston comic, Amma Marfo, you guys. AMMAMARFO. And that's what it is on Instagram. And it's also ammamarfo.com/comedy because she has a whole life. So find the rest of the so I'm psyched. I watched your the half hour that you recorded, your half hour video special called Enjoy Your Nachos. It's on YouTube. I will put a link. And it was funny. And I really enjoyed I was telling Andy, before we get into your dorkdom, clearly, I was telling Andy about the space camp story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how somebody told you to take it off your resume, and he interviews so many people all the time. And he's like, no, that's a great interview. Like, what? Yeah. And then you might get a job. Yeah.
The number of people I've since talked to that watched it were like, oh, I went too. Like, I've met so many like space camp alum as a result of it. It's like being an Eagle Scout or like it's one of those things that like just immediately bonds people that did it.
Right. And it's not, and I have two nephews that are Eagle Scouts, and it feels a little gross when it comes
Yeah.
up in interviews. So this just means yay, nerds. Eagle Scout means
Exactly.
look what your parents made you do. And
Exactly.
that's fine. So I have a list. Your dorkdom is a list of gentlemen that you admire. They're crushes,
Sure.
famous people that you crush on.
That's such a diplomatic way of putting it. Thank you for saying so. Because being 36 years old and having celebrity crushes feels deranged. Like,
Oh, but I think 36 seems about right, because eventually you get. I mean, because I remember when I was probably 30 or 32 when I had a crush on Keanu Reeves and knew that nothing would come of it. And that's when that started to fade. Like right around 36, still had a crush on Dennis Quaid for no reason. And then later I was like, why don't you wrap that up? But it's, I mean, I'm sure he's a perfectly nice man. But someone asked me who my favorite actor was, and I said Dennis Quaid. And my acting teacher was like, wow. Oh, okay. What is that? That's your favorite actor. And I was
it's
trying
an
to
offbeat
act.
answer. You don't hear it often.
No, because he's not a great actor. He he's a guy with regular features that seem very handsome. So yeah. So okay, so Amma Marfo, pick one. And here's what you should know. I don't know who anybody is. As I picked two guys in their 50s. So
You did tell me that. You're like, I won't know who any of these people are. Well, as we talk through it, maybe we'll get to a place where you can pinpoint some of them.
Oh, actually, the middle guy I do know, but that's because he too is in his 50s. Oh, good for him. Okay.
There you go.
There we go. First guy, Jason.
Okay, so Jason Weaver was like one of my youngest crushes because he was the singing voice of young Simba in The Lion King.
Oh,
Now, yes. So at the time, there weren't a whole lot of Disney movies that acknowledged that Black people existed.
right.
And then we got The Lion King in 1994. I was 8. He had actually just played young Michael Jackson in the 5-part miniseries Jackson the American Dream. So he could like sing, he could dance, he was adorable. And then they were like, oh, he's gonna be the young Simba in The Lion King. And I was so excited. So
okay.
so this was like a very big deal because it was him and James Earl Jones and Madge Sinclair. And I was like, they let Black people in a Disney movie?
I know this, now that you say it, and of course I am in a fishbowl of my own enjoyment. Why would I, no one would have pointed it out. So is that pretty much the first big people of color in a Disney movie?
It pretty much was. Like I like to tell people that like we had The Lion King, and then we had the Muses and Hercules, and then we had to wait a very long time before The Princess and the Frog. So The Lion King was kind of groundbreaking in a lot of ways, but one of them was just like, hey, we got Black people. We won't let them be people yet, but
right, they get you know what, steady work that voiceover stuff though. That's
true,
and it's true. And James Earl Jones, voice of Darth Vader, if I remember correctly. No,
he was,
maybe?
yes.
Okay, so
yeah, but Darth Vader and CNN, like this is CNN. That's also him.
Oh, that's also him. So, yeah, we don't clearly. You don't get to be on screen, but yeah,
it took us a long time.
Yeah, the journey continues. Okay, well, Wakanda forever, my friends. Let's get this together. Oh, there you go. And so, so he was Simba, and is he also super handsome and fit? Is he an actor guy?
He's cute. He wasn't doing a whole lot of acting for a while. Like he did a bit of stuff with the Disney Channel into his teens, kind of dropped off for a little bit, and now he's back doing some stuff. He's on The Chi on Showtime now.
Okay.
So I was just very excited to see him work again. I was like, he was so good. Where's he been? So I'm glad he's back.
You're glad he's back. Is he approximately 36 years old too right now? That's always what I think with crushes, is if they're kind of age appropriate, I get sucked in, you know?
He's a little bit older than I am. He's probably in his early 40s, I want to say.
This is a handsome young man right here, early 40s.
Right?
This is a handsome adult man. 40s.
Yeah, handsome adult man.
Yes.
Roughly age appropriate, I would say. Couple years older.
Yeah, not so bad. And okay, so Jason Weaver, you guys, know in your heart, because I've never known his name. So now we know. He did Simba.
Now you know.
He was the young Michael Jackson, which means that he must have been sort of lithe like kind of like real kind of skinny as
Yeah.
as a boy. Yeah, as a child.
Yeah, like skinny, good dancer.
Maybe not
Yeah,
super
he did
tall.
great.
Yeah.
It used to be on VH1 all the time. Like the likelihood that you would turn on VH1 and it was just on, A, because they were showing it a lot, but B, it's very long. So it's like if you decide you're watching it and you catch it in the Jason Weaver era, like that's most of your day. But
Right.
like you get all of it.
Right. That's him growing up right there. So it's fascinating. Okay. I say we go through them until we run out of men. And then we say, who's your laminated list? Okay, so next up,
Okay.
a guy named Devon, maybe?
Devin Sawa.
Devin.
Yeah.
Devin. Okay.
Okay. So in the mid to late 90s, before we had the rivalry of Backstreet Boys versus NSYNC, this is before that.
Okay.
There was RU team JTT, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, who at the time was on Home Improvement.
Okay.
Or are you team Devin Sawa, who was not doing regular television, but was fairly active in movies?
Okay.
The Marfo household was a house divided. My sister was a Jonathan Taylor Thomas fan, and I was a Devin Sawa fan.
Okay.
He had done Casper, he had done Now and then the two fandoms converged in the 1997 film Wild America. They were both in it, and it was not playing near our house. It was playing about an hour away. So the two of us, my sister and I, along with our neighbor Nicole, badgered my mother to drive us an hour to go see this movie. And it was fine. The movie was fine. But it was just one of those things where it's like, they're both in it. This is an event. You have to see it. It's very important.
It will fulfill
it
will fulfill all of everybody's crushes. Okay.
It hit everybody's needs.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a movie about the brothers who ended up there. There he is. That's him.
There he is. Yeah, check out the YouTube, you guys. I'm showing pictures of we're building kind of what you like in a fellow, which is a kind of a lithe, kind of a thin but very handsome. Okay, this is Devin Sawa, SAWA. His iconic roles, including Casper. That's what the article says. What he was in Casper the Friendly Ghost? Is that what I'm?
He was. So Casper, I want to say this was like 1995. So it was Christina Ricci, Bill Pullman, pre-Independence Day.
Oh my God.
It's funny because so you're like, all right, Bill Pullman, hot dad to a young girl, Christina Ricci, and they move into this house because he is a ghost hunter trying to find the spirit of his dead wife.
Oh, that's just good writing. That's just good writing. Okay.
Wonderful writing. So in the process, they move into this house, and there's Casper. He's the ghost there, but then his three ghost uncles who are kind of jerks, and he's just like this sweet kid. And the kid makes friends with Christina Ricci. So her best friend when she moved to this new town is a ghost. And like, yeah, they talk about how like a child dies. It's more than a little bit sad.
Wait, we find out Casper's backstory? I'm sorry to digress, but
no, that's important. Yeah.
Yeah, how did Casper pass away?
He got sick after like sledding outside. So I don't know if it was like pneumonia or like something, but like it was too cold and he got sick. I don't know if his parents believed in vaccines, and I did not mean to take the podcast there, but people have asked.
Oh, fair enough. And the thing is, could have been pre-vaccines. Could have been the flu epidemic of 1918. Could have happened. Remember, It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah. They
don't place it in time, so it could have been something like that. But in any case, now there's this dead child in the house, and then the peak of the action, where it becomes like very swoony, is that Christina Ricci decides to hold a Halloween party, and she has the Halloween party there because everyone in the town is like, "Oh, your house is haunted." So they go, and then at one point, Casper comes down in his human form. And it's Devin Sawa, and he's maybe 12, 13 at this point. But I was like 9, and I was like, wait a minute. What is this? Like,
so he played the corporeal image of Casper the Friendly Ghost.
He did.
First of all, this is a film that I would enjoy. I think at this juncture,
I think he would.
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason not to. Okay. All right. So that's I kind of want to write down find Casper, find streaming.
I'm not sure where it's streaming. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's streaming somewhere, but I think
Right.
you might enjoy it.
I might enjoy it because that's hilarious. And so Casper the Friendly Ghost sounds, but what was Wild America about?
So oh gosh, and now I'm forgetting their name. The brothers that did Wild America on PBS for ages.
Okay.
What was their name? I want to say Wolf, but that feels too on the nose. But it was essentially about how they kind of like got into wildlife photography and went on this trip, the three of them, to like start filming animals like out in the wilderness. And then like it eventually turned into
Is it a
the
comedy?
series no.
Is
it's
it
mostly a
supposed to be?
drama.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas, Devin Sawa, and Scott Barstow.
Scott Fairstow, yeah.
But-
Who was
all
on
right.
Party of Five at the time, but I was a bit young for that. I've since watched it and it
Wait.
was great.
Are they doing the voices of these animals? Or are they?
You know, it looks like they would be, doesn't it?
Yeah,
But
it looks like
no.
Homeward Bound. It looks like Michael J. Fox. Like one of them plays a cat, one of them plays a bear, and one of
Yeah.
them plays a wolf.
That
Oh my
would have been a
God.
very different, way more fun movie. But no, they're just pursuing animals that cannot talk.
Interesting. William Deere, director. So David Burr, cinematography. I'm looking for a name. The word bear is in it. Is Wild America movie a true story? It's inspired by the true story of the Stouffer brothers, who grew
Stouffer
up
Brothers,
to film.
There we go.
There we go. Wow. A door just closed, you guys. I don't know if you heard it, but there it is. The wind is alive. And so, okay. So that one, they're just sort of how they fell in love with animals and
Like they loved animals, loved filmmaking, and we're just like, this is the thing that we're gonna do.
okay.
The movie is fine, but it was very nice to look at in the mid to late 90s. It was all of the Teen Beat pinups come to life.
Right.
Like, these pinups can move.
Right. It's like The Outsiders when in the early 80s when I was like
Yes.
a teen. And I was like, yeah, this is not true to the book, but I'm enjoying these handsome gentlemen. And
Now, who was your outsider of choice? Because I did love that book and then came
Right.
to love the movie as well.
well, in the book, of course, everybody loves Pony Boy. But and was Matt Dillon in it? Because I kind of
Matt Dillon wasn't it. He was Dally.
he might have been Dallas. Okay.
He was Dallas,
so-
yeah. Matt Dillon was Dallas.
And then I always had a crush on Emilio Estevez because I loved him in Repo Man. Later, that was a later film, but it was when he decided he was going to be an artist. That fell apart.
Yes.
But he was like he had to get away from the
I get
Brat
it.
Pack. Yeah, I don't know what he's doing now. I think he's Hollywood royalty. They bought land. He's fine, but
Well, he was doing the Mighty Ducks Game Changers the first season,
okay.
and then
He's- Charlie Sheen is his brother, right?
Charlie Sheen is his brother. Yeah.
Okay. What now? Now I'm also writing down whatever happened to Emilio Estevez.
Yeah, so he did the first season of the Mighty Ducks series for Disney Plus, and
Oh,
then
did he?
He did. So he came back as Gordon Bombay for that series, but then there were some COVID protocols that he did not wish to comply with. They don't say which part, but we can make our guesses. So
Yes.
he was removed, and Josh Duhamel came in and replaced him for the second season. But now it's canceled, so it doesn't matter. But he was in the first season, and that was about 2 years ago. Maybe 3.
This must break Martin Sheen's heart that these two guys are such weirdo. Like it's the way they yeah. This has got because he's like because I live with my mother-in-law have just watched the entire seasons, all the seasons of Gracie and Frankie, or Frankie and Gracie
yes.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
And so he's such a good, like he was in he's the West Wing guy. And
Yep.
Charlie
Vice President
Sheen,
and the American President, which my father loves.
it's one of my favorite movies. I've seen it over 200 times.
It's so good.
It's so good. It made me fall in love with Annette Bening, though I do not identify as bisexual. I do not. You know what I identify as? Human. And look at that. She seems very pretty. So I'm not going to make out with anybody. I actually identify as monogamous because
There
I'm
you go.
married. I'm married to that guy. So I was like, do you identify as monogamous? And he looked at me and said, sure. And I was like,
Sure, he says. All right, that's a choice. Not yes, but sure. They
Yes.
kind of mean different things.
It felt a little dodgy, but I think it's because for a long time he identified as bisexual, and it felt like I was sort of getting him away from that. I was like, no, your
see.
history could be whatever it is, my friend.
It's a way of exercising some freedom, I have to imagine, of like,
There you go.
sure. Like it's a
Sure.
yes, but like I still
Yes.
want freedom to move.
Yes. All
do
right.
that.
It's but if we move, please alert me. So because of the monogamy. All right, third one on the list, Ben Affleck. This one I know.
This one you know. Right. So I was actually just telling somebody part of this story. In the 4th grade, and I just talked to a friend about this who was in 4th grade with me. There was this educational series that PBS did called Voyage of the Mimi. And Ben Affleck was in it. He was probably about 10 or 11 at the time, but like it had been out for a couple of years. So this is like very, very young Ben Affleck. And we watched it in science class. It was a big deal because we got out the laser disc player. That's where we were in time. So then in like 7th grade, when we all heard about Good Will Hunting come out and like that whole deal, they were like, oh, it's Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. And I was like, Ben Affleck from Voyage of the Mimi? And even then, like the type of person that I am, nobody knew what I was talking about because they didn't know that it was this kid from this educational series that we watched on Laserdisc once a week. But it was him. It was the kid from Voyage of the Mimi. And the second Voyage of the Mimi. There he is. C.T.
Ben
Graham.
Affleck as a
Baby
tiny
Ben Affleck.
child.
Uh-huh.
Does he come from Hollywood royalty? I take it as well.
So he doesn't. Actually, yes and no. So he grew up in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is where he met Ben Affleck, or where he met Matt Damon. I'm sorry, because Matt Damon is also from Massachusetts. But his mom apparently was a casting agent, which I did not know. So in the system, but not quite like royalty.
Right. So in possible to So there was he could get work because his mom. That's so fascinating. Wow. Voyage of the Mimi. What was that about?
So it was about a group of like scientists that were exploring and gathering data on humpback whales around New England. So because he grew up in New England, it's a WGBH production, flagship PBS and NPR station.
Flagship, the best.
Flagship. Yeah. So he was on that. And then we watched it at school. And then his character was like the grandson of the captain whose mom like needed him to do something for the summer. So he was just a kid on this boat that like got to meet all these scientists and all this other stuff. So like the first half was their adventures on like the islands and like gathering data. And then the second half was like him and other like young people from the show, like talking to people at like the New England Aquarium or like other people that know things about like science. So it was very educational. I was getting a little bit more out of it than that, but
right, because and they played it in your class because it was a PBS thing, and somebody didn't want to teach that day. They're like, instead, let's watch Voyage of the Mimi.
Especially because like we had laser discs, and they're like, y'all know about laser discs? Like
laser discs.
I don't even know how to explain them for people that weren't around. Like record size CDs, I guess.
Record size DVDs. That's it. And the quality was amazing.
Yes,
because of the bit rate could be what I don't know. Allow me to have that fall apart. You get it. It's first of all, Rangers of the Dork Forest. They probably half of them own laser discs. That's
true. And I remember watching The Abyss at a neighbor's house on Laserdisc. And you're right, it looked amazing on like a late 90s television when it should have looked awful. So like it was amazing.
Right. The quality is epic. So Ben Affleck, there was, I don't know what, I liked the Matt Damon movie with him a fair amount. Yeah, I liked it a lot. It was sort of hyped a little too much. And then I went and saw it, which is such a horrible, don't do it, people. Don't.
Oh, I mean, we'll get to that in just a moment. But yes,
because I wanted to like it, and I like Robin Williams played his teacher. That was super fun for me, and I thought it was great. But I will say there is a Ben Affleck movie that I liked in spite of Ben Affleck, and I think Ben Affleck is very handsome. But it's a Philip K. Dick book that could not be ruined by that bad 5 or 6 years of Ben Affleck. But he had a bad paycheck.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. And because there was a bad dip where the choices he made weren't terrible, but for some reason his performance was not great.
Yeah, I'm not sure what was going on. Like there was like mid to late 2000s, because it was before he had started directing.
Yeah, it's sort of like
it was just some of it was like something was going on. I'm not sure.
He had to refine it. Like he got to be Batman, and it was just like, no, this is painful. And then afterwards, he sort of found it again. Like he sort of, he had and granted, it might have been when he was partying so hard, and he had to
there's a lot of
up
other
and stuff
going on.
Yeah, and then he sobered up, and maybe he was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to phone it in anymore. And so, but Paycheck was actually a fascinating story. I love Philip K. Dick. I can't read him. He writes, he's clearly on LSD, but the plots, when someone else has taken the time to read a Philip K. Dick novel and turn it into either a synopsis, I enjoy a synopsis, or a movie, I am on board. Though Man in the High Castle I couldn't do because it was too creepy. But
time-wise, it was a tough one. I was like, maybe not now. Maybe not now.
now it felt, it was terrible timing on that too. It was a little too high. We're living this. It was Handmaid's Tale. Yeah,
exactly. Same thing.
Mm-hmm. And but I do, I even like Minority Report, and
I really liked Minority Report.
Yeah, and Tom Cruise,
and then he was great. And then that was one of the first times we got Colin Farrell. So he kind of burst in. I was like, oh hey, who are you? And that was another great one where that kind of happened. But yeah,
I love what you emailed me about the definition of celebrity crushes. Remember the quote that you said?
Yes.
Let
me read it,
please.
So I want to make sure that I get it right. So Blythe Robertson, who is a writer, she works on Colbert. I think she's a writer's assistant or one of the assistants on Colbert. She has a book called How to Date Men When You Hate Men, which is a very provocative title. It's actually a very good book. But she talks a lot about the value of crushes as a woman of our shared age. We're about the same age. And what she says is crushes are basically love energy within yourself that you use the idea of another person to access. And I was like, that makes me feel better about it.
Right. Because there's parts of those crushes that you're like, oh, can I see it? Do you see it reflected in yourself?
Right. Yeah. It kind of lets me know what I think is important. And over time, it kind of shifts. So who I really liked as I was a kid, and seeing who those people have turned out to be, and how I feel about it. And it's been really interesting.
Have any of them when you it is hard having a celebrity crush and then you find out that they've either lost their mind or they were never nice. And that always feels bad because it means that I've judged somebody badly. I was attracted to something that I shouldn't have been attracted to, but I'm actually usually pretty good about it. The only one that's weird is Michael Douglas, because Michael Douglas, I like Michael Douglas a lot, but Michael Douglas is an empty vessel as far as I can tell. If you pour a script into that guy, he becomes that guy. Romancing the Stone, Wall Street, American President, whatever Hank Pym, and you're like, I can't tell what kind of guy you really are because you're so good at this.
Yeah, and he's blank almost, not in appearance. I definitely know what Michael Douglas is, or I know what I'm looking at when I see him, but blank in the sense of he takes on whatever he needs to take on.
He's an amazing actor. He's just so he's someone that I like, and I'm like, well, I hope he's a good guy. But didn't he marry Angelina Jolie or didn't he marry someone super young? Not Angelina Jolie. That was Brad Pitt.
Michael Douglas is married to Catherine Zeta-Jones.
That's right. Who is in my
now
head,
is age appropriate, but at the time felt weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
By all accounts, they
Um,
have a lovely life together. But yeah, I'm trying to
I
think
hope
of
so.
anybody in particular that has like disappointed in that way. I don't know that I've had that. I mean, I think Ben Affleck is an interesting case in that, in the sense of like, I wonder what he's doing. I hope he's okay, but never really like disappointed. Just more like,
Right.
should I from afar, who has never met Ben Affleck, be worried about Ben Affleck? Like, it usually tends to take on more of that.
Yeah, and I don't think he's yeah, because it's different from having a crush on someone. I don't think I've ever had a crush on someone and had them kind of become a goof, or and that's the lightest way of putting it, as opposed to
Sure.
just being a fan of somebody and then going, okay, you're Woody Allen,
Yeah.
Cosby, Louis
Sure.
C.K., where you're just like,
Mhm.
oh, it turns out you're not using your powers for good all the time. You also
Right.
have this super scary part of you that decided,
Mhm.
because when you become famous, and I've always thought this, is that because people talk about Keanu Reeves, who I did have a crush on for a long time, and
Mhm.
there was a dormant period in his life, and now
Yeah.
he's back with all the John Wicks, and he's the greatest guy in the world, and everybody says he's super nice, and that's
Mhm.
I feel good about that, but but who did I have a crush on that it was I was worried about? God dang it. Oh, brain. I went into Keanu Reeves and then I was reminded of a bit I used to do. Let's quickly tell people that I'm talking with Amma Marfo. And if you go to Amma Marfo, Marfo, AMMA, by the way, .com/comedy, you can see all the things, but she is on Instagram at Amma Marfo. So she's got a comedy hub show that's monthly, right? In the Boston
Mhm.
area, called a
Well,
Pantry
so
Raid. Oh.
it's online. So every
Oh,
second Wednesday you can watch it on Twitch on Comedy Hub. So we've got one
oh,
next week.
oh,
It's
that's
going to be a lot
cool.
of fun.
Is it once, because this is going to go up in like 3 or 4 weeks. So what is it, every third
It's
Wednesday
every
or something?
second Wednesday at
Every
8 Eastern.
Okay, I'm going to put that link in the notes so you guys can go check and see when the next one, because this will come out on a Tuesday. Maybe it'll be the next day. You can see online stand-up comedy. I would do that, Joe, if you wanted me to.
Absolutely.
Enjoy the Nachos is her half-hour special that is on YouTube, and that will be in the link as well. And what's FOD Ball Productions? What is that?
So Fudball Productions is a comedy collective that I work on in Boston with some friends, and it essentially is for people who are the first, only, or different on their lineups. So women, people of color, people across the queer spectrum who get to do
Right.
shows together.
Oh,
And
nice.
it was born of the idea that like I travel a lot for comedy. I do festivals and things like that. And I would meet Boston comics, women, people of color who I had never met before. And I would have to travel to meet them. So I met comics
Yes.
that I would love to have met in Boston, in New York, in Toronto. And it was just because like, oh, either I'm
The
the
one.
standout on that show or they are. So we never met. So this has been a way to put a bunch of those people together on shows together. And it's been
Oh.
wonderful. Like we're having so much fun. The feedback mics that we've done have been amazing. And just everybody feels so comfortable when they can be in
Yeah.
spaces where they kind of know that they're not going to be the butt of the joke. And
Yeah.
audiences have felt the same way. Like we've gotten people that were like, oh, I didn't think I liked going to shows in Boston, but it turns out when no one's making fun of me, I actually really like comedy. So that's been a really nice kind of additional benefit.
Well, let me just say the thing that I tell everybody every time. Lewis Lee owns a comedy club in Minneapolis, and he tries to book a lot of different people. And the way he puts it is he is Chinese. He is from Hong Kong originally. And what he likes, what Lewis Lee likes to say is, everyone has money, Jackie. I want it all. So that's why he books diverse acts, because he's like, the only people he didn't book for years, the Chinese. I was like, if you could find a Chinese, I know Chinese comics that are funny. He's like, I doubt it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you a dick? Why are you a dick about Chinese? He was like, well, maybe I have a higher standard. And I was like, maybe you do. And maybe you want to pull your head out of your ass.
Maybe.
By the way, let us now find out here in this time code if there's an ad. Let us wait for a second. Was there one? Did it happen? Who knows? I hope you enjoyed it. Buy something, I guess. Because there might have been an ad. I'm talking with Amma Marfo. It's ammamarfo.com /comedy. It's at Amma Marfo. Let us talk about your next one. His name is Noah.
Yes. So in the sea of boy bands that we had in the late 90s and early 2000s, there were a number of groups upon which you could draw crushes. Obviously, there were the Backstreet Boys, there were the NSYNCs, the 98 Degrees. Let's see, there was Five and BB Mac if you were going British. There were lots and lots and lots of options.
Okay.
And with that in mind, MTV decided we want to make a fake documentary about a boy band. And that boy band was called Together. So there was a mockumentary that came out in like 2001, 2002. And that band got so popular that they kind of just had to become a real band. Kind of like the Monkees or like a Spinal Tap kind of thing where it just like outlives its origin.
Right.
So you could like buy Together albums. They toured, they had dolls. Like it was this whole thing that just like exploded beyond what MTV expected it to do.
Right.
And they really like leaned into the archetypes. So like there was the cute one, there was the shy one, there was the older brother played by Kevin Farley, Chris Farley's brother. There was like the one that is the young one, but it's like a little bit sick, like he's sick with something. And the shy one was named Chad Linus on the show. His real name was Noah Bastian. And this was in the era of like online message boards where you could like meet anybody. Because like everybody was just there. There was no verification. There was no like machinations of social media. People were just out there and you could talk to whoever you wanted.
Yeah.
And I was on a Together message board through Yahoo groups where I met Noah Bastian's mom.
Oh.
And this was a big deal. So like she would come in and like answer questions, and like if you talk to her, she would like mail you things. So I was still playing piano at this point, and there was a Together song called Before We Say Goodbye that had like this really beautiful piano part in it. They were good songs, but they were also like just funny enough because like they play on the fact that like every boy band song is just a little bit sexier than you expect it to be. So every Together song was like very open about this. Like, no, we're not trying to hide the sex part. Like you all know what we're doing. So
it was called, what was it called? Before you said goodbye?
Before We Say Goodbye. Yeah.
You say goodbye.
Before We Say Goodbye. So I had a tape of me playing piano to it. And then I mailed it to her. And then she mailed it to him. And then he sent me an autograph picture back. I still have it. I'm not at my house, but I do still have it. So,
what are the lyrics?
Creeping around on the internet pays off. Oh, gosh. Let's see.
What are the lyrics to Before We Say Goodbye?
So I think the catch of the kind of like, oh, this is like very clearly a sexy song piece of it was like, before, gosh, we've been down this road before. Oh.
Before we close that door, before we go our separate ways, let's stop and find out why before we say goodbye.
Yeah.
We've been down this road before and we've always made it through. But in case we break up, can I still have sex with you? Oh, before we lose this love, before we throw it all away, girl, don't go do another guy
before we say goodbye. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so funny. And this is in 2001, 2002. I literally am putting I'm putting this on my airplane rotation. So I like to listen to weird songs as I fly around the world, and it kind of it makes me patient with the person in front of me in an airport situation. And if this is as catchy as it sounds, I can just sing along and then laugh. There's the WandaVision song, it was Agatha All Along, always makes me laugh. So I listen to that in the airport.
It's a great one.
Yeah. So, okay. So what, and then what does Noah Bastian look like? I also need to know this. This is something I need to know because
I have no idea what he's doing now. He didn't do a whole bunch after that.
Okay.
Like very blonde, blue eyes.
Oh, wow.
Very
he
Aryan
looks like such a haircut, man. This guy looks like
the haircuts of the moment, like really leaned all the way into it. But again,
90210 kind of
yeah. But like it really got away from MTV in an interesting way, because I've talked to people now who didn't actually realize it was a spoof band, like never got that context. They're like, oh, my favorite boy band was Together. And it's like, oh, that no one told you?
Because they were kids. Maybe they were too young and they were like, oh, he's on Instagram, you guys. A lot of people don't know this.
Really?
Yes. Eyebrows just went up. Hello, it is Noah Zark Wait, that can't be him. Is it really him? It might be.
Hold on, now I want to look. Just
Noah?
a moment as we be on our phones.
Wait, let me. Oh, wait a minute. Noah Bastian, Instagram. He's only has 200. That can't be really him.
No.
No.
Hold on.
Chad, because his real name is Chad Linus. So why
the
would he
character's
be
name
on?
is Chad Linus.
Oh,
His
it was.
name is Noah Bastian.
Oh,
Yeah.
there we go. Okay, so, he's 43
here,
now.
So here's a post from Jamie Knight Art. I was so boy band crazy in 1999. I truly felt like MTV's Together parody band was real. So this person got an autographed picture of him as well. But yeah, says this person was not in on the joke.
He was not in on the joke. He is gay, and he came out in 2013.
Good for him.
Good for him. Good for you, brother. Live it up. Last time he worked was 2007. He was in a TV film called Ice Spiders. Oh, he was on an episode of Everwood. I loved Everwood.
I loved Everwood too.
I have forgotten about Everwood. Last time I thought about Everwood was when it was on television. So 2007 science fiction horror film, which premiered in 2007 on the Sci-Fi Channel. A team of young Winter Olympic hopefuls must slalom to safety. Oh my God. Everyone needs to watch Ice Spiders immediately.
Ice Spiders.
When a horde of giant mutated spiders spin their way out of a top secret laboratory. Okay. It stars Patrick Muldoon, Vanessa Estelle Williams, and Noah Bastian, Kay Daynor Gerald, and Matt Whitaker, and was released on DVD in 2007. I still get DVDs. Oh my God. The image of that. They have to slalom their way to safety, Emma. I don't think you understand.
Ice spiders.
Yeah. Mutated ice spiders. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with any of that. I don't know that I can watch it because I don't like spiders, but that doesn't mean that everyone else who loves to be jump scared shouldn't watch that film. Okay. This has been an amazing walk through memory lane. That isn't my life. Yes, this is like somebody else's. It's like everything, because Ready Player One. Remember Ready Player One when it came out?
I do.
It's essentially the guy who wrote that has been on the Dork Forest. His name escapes me. Perfectly great. He owns a DeLorean that he put a fake flux capacitor in. I mean, the guy is a 55-year-old nerd, obviously, right?
How does one find or make a fake flux capacitor or acquire a fake flux capacitor?
He knows prop people. He's got, that's all you're doing. You're just making a fake. And when I met him, it was Halloween weekend, and he came dressed as a Ghostbuster. So
amazing.
I'm just telling you, he is Ready Player guy. He's living the dream. He's living his own.
Great.
So, but what I think is interesting is there's all this canonization and this myth loving of the 70s and the 80s so much that people who were children in the 90s and came to all of their nerd stuff is from the early 2000s. That's kind of awesome, and to learn who is Pedro, who is your final.
Oh, you know who he is. Everybody
do I know
does.
Pedro Pascal? I know him.
Oh yes. So Pedro Pascal, as of 2022, 2023, is probably genuinely one of the most famous people on Earth, between Din Djarin and The Mandalorian, Joel Miller on The Last of Us.
Oh, I do know him. Hi.
Yes, you do.
He's the man.
Everybody.
He's the Mandalorian.
He's a Mandalorian. Yeah, he was on Narcos. He was on Game of Thrones. Nerds know him. He is deeply entrenched in nerd culture for any number of reasons.
He is huge. Okay.
Yeah.
What did you see him in initially?
So the first thing I saw him in was in the era of the pandemic, where everybody was doing table reads of shows, because we had no content and we didn't know when we were going to get more TV. So the cast of Community reunited to do a table read of an episode that Walton Goggins had originally been on. Walton Goggins couldn't make the table read. Pedro Pascal took his place.
Okay.
And there's a part of that episode, which if you've seen it, it's essentially the one where Pierce has passed away. That was there out to have Chevy Chase escape the situation. And there's a part where he is like going through and like giving people things from his will, and every person he gives like this pooled thermos of his sperm, and he has to like explain why everybody gets it for one reason or another.
Oh,
So
gross.
in this, yeah, but like in the span of about like 5 minutes, he has to say like vial of sperm or vial of like hypervirile sperm or something like 8 times. Every time he cracks up a different way. So it's like 5, 6 consecutive minutes of him just like giggling like crazy to get through it. And I'm just like, who is this silly, handsome? Like, it was just so funny. Like, you could tell he's having so much fun and like so frustrated that he can't get it right, but also just genuinely enjoying it. And like at that point in the pandemic, no one was enjoying anything. So I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, it was just very like heartwarming to see. And like The Mandalorian had already started at that point, but I wasn't. I think it was like mid first season, so I wasn't like fully caught up on it yet.
And he didn't take his helmet off until the end of the second season. So
so like nobody knew that it was him. So then people were like, oh, from Mandalorian. I was like, oh, that's him. And then even then, like, didn't watch too much of it afterwards. But like, so then The Last of Us hit, and like that was a whole thing. And then he hosted SNL, and he was amazing on SNL. And like I was like in at that point. So like it started in 2020, took a little bit of a break, and then like came back. I was like, oh, I'm here. Like I'm mayor of downtown there. I am on board. And then it happened that so he hosted SNL in like early February. The following week, I was in New York because I'd been planning to go see Oscar Isaac's play. Oscar Isaac being another person on the celebrity crush list, didn't make the top 5, but he's also definitely in there. So we went to
we'll have time.
Oh, we'll get into it. But yeah, so he was doing this play. It's now going to Broadway, The Sign in Sydney Brewstein's Window in Brooklyn. So I had been planning to go to that with friends for like 6 months.
Okay.
So we go to the play, and my friend and I are exploring outside because we're like, if we find where the stage door is and we go after the show, we're going to get to meet Oscar Isaac. Isn't that cool? So we're out like doing our investigation, and my friend Nick is inside, and he's like, Pedro Pascal is here. You have to come inside. He was still in New York because he was doing like press stuff for The Last of Us and The Mandalorian. So we like sprint inside. I was told it looked like I was going in for a tackle. I haven't run that fast. So we did not catch him before the play. But then at intermission, we're like, let's just go down to the lobby and do a lap and see who we find.
Yep.
So we go one side to the other. We don't see him. We come back. And then I see him and then immediately turn around because I was like, I'm going to make a scene. Like, I'm going to make a scene. I cannot look at him. So my friend is facing him. And I was like, I'm whispering. I'm like, is that who I think it is? And she is a lovely person, but not very subtle. So she was like, what? And I was like, lower your voice. Is that who I think it is? And then a woman next to her was like, yes, that is who you think it is. So the
there
three
we
of us
go,
are
just
like,
a stranger.
Exactly. And her name was Ashley. She was lovely. She was visiting New York. Her first trip since having a baby. Like, we got to know each other well. The 3 of us are like,
well, I
how
hope
are
you're
we
listening,
going-
Ashley. Yes.
Ashley, it was a pleasure meeting you. I hope your son's doing well. So we're like strategizing like how to go and like approach him and say hello. He was on the phone at the time. I should also say that. So we didn't want to like interrupt his phone call, and we definitely didn't want to like crack a seal where then everybody that saw him took a picture. So we're like, how do we do this?
Yep.
So we managed to like move in as we thought he was getting off the phone. I later found out he was still on the phone. But he was like, I don't want to hang up. And we're like, that's okay. So if you actually look at the picture that we got, he is still on FaceTime. There was a person on the screen, but we did get to meet him, and he was lovely.
And you did get a picture.
I did get a picture, yes.
All right. Well, that is amazing. Yeah. And did everybody kind of swap him after? It's really hard to ask for a picture. And when you're in some version of show business, you're like, I know this is kind of annoying, but I kind of need a picture. And because my mom would love me to,
Exactly. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But is it, and to his credit, he did. He was absolutely lovely about it. But yeah, I don't think that many other people did, because it was like right before the end of intermission. So he may have maybe gotten like 1 or 2 more. But like, if you look at the posture of the picture, like we're all like hunched down because we're not trying to open the posture such that it was like everybody else come in. So everyone's like hunched over.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
did our
that's
best.
hilarious. Yeah. So here's what I just learned about Pedro Pascal is he changed his name to Pascal because that was his mother's maiden name, and she
Mhm.
passed away in 2000.
Mhm.
Or
Yep.
And so he changed his last name to Pascal, which I guess was her maiden name. Now we know. Now we know. Who's Oscar Isaac?
So Oscar Isaac, among being one of Pedro Pascal's good friends,
Yes.
he came to prominence with Inside Llewyn Davis, so the Coen brothers film.
Okay.
He was Llewyn Davis,
Okay.
and that was one where, like, he sings in it, and he's like very good. It's a Coen brothers movie, so like it's great, and like he's excellent in it. And yep, there he is,
Looking very handsome. Well played, sir.
right? Just
Yep.
biblically good looking, as one person has said about Pedro Pascal, but also applies to Oscar Isaac. But yeah,
It really
kind of like
does.
slowly came up in a very similar way. Was in the final 3 Star
Okay.
Wars movies with Poe Dameron.
Oh, is he Poe Dameron?
He's Poe Dameron, yeah.
You know that I have that face thing where I don't recognize anyone, even when it is clearly something I've seen a lot of.
I did not know
okay.
that.
Yeah, no, I have that. They say it's a real thing. I might just be a jerk, but I have my self-absorption is pretty. It's pretty dense, so it's hard to get through it. But
Yeah, it's like who is this? Which is
Right,
humbling, and I think sometimes. So I have to imagine some celebrities need that, just like genuinely somebody being, "I'm sorry, who are you?"
I did a Stephen Allen Green. Was it Stephen Allen Green? No, it was Dag. Who's not
David
Dag.
Allen Greer.
Stephen
David
Allen
Allen Greer?
Greer. Yeah, David Allen Greer. That's it. I didn't recognize him, and he's a famous stand-up comic.
Oh, sure is.
Sure is. And he was like, we were in a green room together, and he said, well, who are you? And I said, I'm Jackie Cation. I'm one of the comics on the thing. Who are you? And there was a long pause while David Allen Greer was disappointed that I didn't know who he was. But yeah, it's pretty common. I met Matt Damon once and didn't know it was Matt Damon. So yeah,
I'm
he was
sure
hanging out with
run
Tom.
into that often.
Right, he was hanging out with Tom Papa. And
Okay.
because they're friends from that when I think it was Liberace movie.
Yeah.
And so I met Matt Damon, and then it came to me, and I was like, "Oh, neat!" And then that's when he was done talking to me. So when you say "Oh, neat" to somebody,
a great vessel for Michael Douglas, just like, "Hey, Michael Douglas, be Liberace," and he did, and he was great.
Oh my gosh, I never saw it. And Liberace is from my hometown. It's from Milwaukee.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I'm from outside of Milwaukee, but my Liberace story is that my stepmother's mom, my grandmother on that side, she loved Liberace, and she would always say, he just can't find the right girl. And I was like, you're adorable, Granny. And she liked going by Granny. I don't ever want to be a granny. It just feels dark. It feels like you've really given up when someone calls you granny. Auntie feels like respectful, but Aunt Jackie, I don't mind that. I always draw an ant. And then when I always send anything to the nieces and nephews, I always draw an ant. And then I write the word Jackie.
Jackie.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to talk about somebody who was the object of many a celebrity crush, Liberace, which was time poorly spent for so many ways. But they had no way of knowing that.
Right.
They had no way of knowing that.
And the nature of crushes, we're talking with Amma Marfo, and the nature of crushes is it doesn't ever manifest itself. So it's almost kind of perfect,
It is. It's a great, like we were talking about, like it's a way of like expending that energy in a way that has basically no stakes, which is very comforting.
It is. It's better than the crushes I had in high school, which were all with gay men as well. And that was a true waste of time. Yes. And one of those guys had to actually tell me in high school. He was like, this, it's very flattering. It's never going anywhere. And I was like,
Yeah. And I think for the type of person who gets into like those types of crushes, like it's easier to just be like, well, you can just project that onto a celebrity and you'll probably never meet them, except sometimes you do meet them. And the other thing about that is I there is an economy of fan made T-shirts of a number
Okay.
of like the young men who people are crushing on. And
Right.
I had like just bought a Pedro Pascal shirt, and it didn't come in time for me to take it to New York, which is good because if
That
I
is-
had, there's a high likelihood that I would have worn it that day and then had to meet him wearing a shirt with him on it. I literally missed it by a day. And I was like, oh, thank God, because I don't have the constitution to deal with something like that gracefully. I would have
Right.
just started crying. I would have been like,
Right.
I'm so tired.
And then I have this shirt on, but I genuinely, and he would not, and he would have, because if someone came up to you wearing a picture of you, and they're just like, I'm just such a huge fan. What's interesting to me is Ron Funches is constantly wearing a shirt that says Funches on it. He's always wearing a shirt with his own merch. And I'm like, gutsy stuff, man. But he can carry it off. He can carry it. I just saw him night before last. He named they named his new son, right? They had a baby. And so it's a little boy. And that boy's name is Theodore Bear Funches. He named his son Teddy Bear.
Teddy Bear. Yeah.
And he's like, I'm a silly man. And now and he doesn't have to go by Teddy Bear. We call him Teddy now, but he may one day reject it. And then he could be a Huxtable. He can go by Theo. And then when he's an adult man, maybe he'll be gay and they can just call him Bear. Or he could just be a wrestler and they could call him Bear. He could be Ted or Theodore or Edward. Not Edward. I don't think he said Edward. Because his name is Theodore. So they'd call him Theo or Ted, I think, right? I don't think Edward, I think, is its own name.
Yeah, Edward is a different shortening to Ted, I think. Although
that's just Eddie.
The book nerd in me kind of wants him to just start going by Lori and not explain it. Like for Theodore Lawrence from Little Women, just be like, I could have been Teddy, but I'm Lori, and then just like not explain it. And actually, to your point about like not wanting to be called Ranny, so you mentioned my joke where someone had mentioned that I shouldn't keep Space Camp on my resume. So that was my grad school professor, Tom Miller, who I love dearly. He's one of my favorite people. And we had him for class when he was getting ready to be a grandfather. So it was that debate of like, what do you want to be called? And he's like, you know what I want to be called? Ricky. I would like to be called Ricky instead of Grandpa. His name is Tom Edward Miller. I wanted to be Ricky. That was his choice. And we were like, how did you get to Ricky? He's like, I don't know, but I love it. And we're like, all right. So every now and again we call him Ricky, but that was what he wanted.
It's nice. And Ricky as a nickname for a grandpa, it could be anything. I know there's Mimi's and there's different names. Like my sister and her partner have 2 kids. They call my sister Mappa, as in rhymes with Papa. And and Mimi is Sam, my sister-in-law. And Mimi, I think, I don't know why. I don't get it, but I'm on board. Whatever you want to, I'll call you whatever you want. Right? Good times. Yeah. And Darla was like, I kind of like Mappa. So, Darlication, also known as Mappa. And
I love it.
You should know we're almost at an hour. Let's do the things where we talk about how this is monthly. It's on the Comedy Hub, which is on Twitch. So if they go to ammamarfo.com/comedy, is there a link to your Twitch channel or to the Comedy Hub?
Yeah, so there's a link to the Twitch channel. There are a couple clips, my full specials there as well as a schedule of where I'll be, mostly in Boston, but I do travel for comedy now and again. So yeah, I can go wherever the comedy calls me to go.
Oh my God. Available. Please book her. Because very funny. Enjoy your nachos. Stand up half hour. You can get that on ammamarfo.com/comedy, but you can also go to YouTube and Google. All I did was Google enjoy your nachos. And you came up first.
I've cornered the market on nachos, which is a literal dream.
We could have talked about nachos for an hour, Emma. So everybody, it's at Amma Marfo on Instagram. Thank you so much for doing the show. And I have now learned many actors that I already knew, but now I know their names.
You know them for real. You're like, I don't know them. And I was like, yes, you do. So yeah, you did it. We did it.
We did it. Thanks for being on the show. And Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat.
They're dancing around my hat, my hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?